folks. So what I have on screen here are the season end rankings for the just completed season 26 of Battlegrounds. You can see that Barrowman finished first, so congrats to him on the victory. Congrats to Trap and to Best in the Biz as well. I believe that's their first time on the podium. Congrats to everybody else who finished in the top 30. That's really a great achievement, one that I can only dream of. So I've been keeping track of these stats for a little while now for a different project that I've been working on. So I have not just season 26, I have season 25, 24, going back to season 20. So that's 7 seasons in total where I have these season end rankings. And I was thinking to myself that it would be interesting to try and use these statistics to answer the question, who are the best overall players in Battlegrounds? Now, many of you may be aware that the YouTuber Empy, who himself is one of the top Battlegrounds players, has done a couple of videos on this topic. And they're very good videos. Please do check them out. But those videos are based at least partially on his own experience being a top Battlegrounds player, playing against all these other people, right? And I believe he also consulted some of his fellow top players to get their opinions. So there's some subjectivity that can creep into those rankings. I wanted to see just a purely statistical approach. What is that going to tell us about who the best players in Battlegrounds are? So how do you analyze these statistics in order to come up with this answer to the question, who's the best? So the first approach that I thought of was a very simple averaging technique. Just look at the season-ending rankings for each player across their 7 seasons, average them up, and then whoever has the lowest average, that's the best person, right? So let's look at what that approach gives us, and we see that according to this approach, Liam is ranked as the best overall player. So even though he's never finished first overall in a season, just his incredible consistency, you can see that over the past 7 seasons, he's never finished worse than 5th, which is pretty amazing. So that gives him the, I guess, quote-unquote victory here, at least in this view of who's the best. Then you have Barrowman, Andrew. Andrew, obviously, some might say it's unfair to be talking about it now after he's already retired from his C1 push. If I had done this a month ago, certainly the standings would have looked a little bit different, but we are where we are. So the rest of these names in the top 10, I think they're probably exactly who you would expect to be showing up in a top 10 ranking if you're an active Battlegrounds player or if you're someone who watches a lot of Battlegrounds streams. So this looks decent, but some may quibble with this and say, is it really fair to be using just the straight average of 7 seasons? That's a fairly long period of time. What if someone went on vacation one season or got sick or just decided not to push one particular season? Do they deserve to suffer in the rankings just because they took a season off? So taking a page out of the books of the Olympics, where in any event where they are scoring or having judges score an event, they'll take out the top and the bottom scores, right? And try to say, well, minus these outliers, and then what does the average look like? And so if we apply that same kind of approach, we come up with this Olympic view. So in this view, Barrowman takes the top spot. And then Liam's still number 2, Andrew's still number 3, and actually the rest of the people in the top 10 are the same people. It's the ordering changes a little bit, but it's still the same people in the top 10 as we saw before. So another objection that may come up is, well, does it make sense to be weighting all of these season results equally, right? If you're trying to say who is the best Battlegrounds player, implicit in that is, well, who's the best Battlegrounds player now? And does it make sense for the season 20 result to mean as much in that ranking as the most recent season 26? So if instead you take a weighted average approach, right? So you, what I did was just to say, this is somewhat arbitrary, season 20, make it weigh half as much as season 26, and then just use a linear progression to say the seasons in between, how much are they going to be weighed? And so if we take that approach, then we still see Barrowman come out on top, right? Liam is still number 2. Again, because Andrew just stopped his push, that hurts him in the rankings a little bit, right? So now Trap is number 3. He's been doing very well lately. But again, it's the same exact people in the top 10 as in the previous 2 views. So these aggregate stats that we've seen so far have been based solely on the season-ending rank. And we have not just season-ending rank, we also have season-ending ELO rating, right? And so some might say, well, why not use the ELO rating if you're trying to compute some measure of who's the best, because the ELO rating is supposed to be a measure of the player's strength. And there's some logic in that, but there's also some challenges in trying to compare ELO ratings across seasons. The rating resets each season, and to some extent, the rating's going to be a reflection of how much people were actually pushing in any given season, right? But putting that aside, let's see what it tells us. And so if you just, again, take a very simple approach and just say, what is the average rating across all 7 seasons for each player, who's got the highest rating, it's Barrowman. And the top 10, going to look very similar. It's been the same exact top 10 constituency for every single aggregate view that we've seen so far. Obviously, the ordering has been different, but it's still the same 10 people. And it's also roughly the same kind of, I guess, groupings within the top 10, right? We're tending to see Liam at number 2. Andrew depends a bit, again, because he's taken this last season off, but he's still at number 3. And we see Self-Destruction, Catley, Simon, all these people are the same people that we've been seeing do very well. And now let's apply that same Olympic scoring technique, right? Just because it's what we used before. Not really any significant changes to this view. Barrowman still on top, Liam, Andrew, and again, it's the same people in the top 10. So coming back to the season end rankings, you remember that I called out Liam a couple of times for just having incredible consistency and never finishing lower than 5th in any given season. And so some may say, well, maybe that's a good way to analyze, right? Who's been the most consistent? Liam's obviously going to come out on top, but who comes after him, right? So let's look at what I'll call the least worst, right? Who had the best worst season across those 7 seasons? And so if we look at that, again, it was pretty clear that Liam was going to come out on top. In this view, Self-Destruction actually comes out in number 2. He's never finished worse than 11th. Then you have Barrow, close behind. He's never finished below 10th. And again, surprising or not so surprising, even by this very different measure, it's still the same exact top 10 people. Hithack, Pepe, Andrew, Simon, Catley, Trap, and Cantona. These are the same. Every single rating that we've seen so far, these have been the top 10 people. Again, orderings may have been different, but it's the same people. So let's go ahead and take that same Olympic approach then. Okay, well, let's go ahead and, even though it's supposed to be about consistency, let's take out the best and worst results. In this view, Liam is still number 1. Here we have, for the first time, a change to the top 10. So Cantona does slip down to number 13 here. And so we see that Biwi manages to get into the top 10. He finishes at number 9, just ahead of Simon. But still, again, a remarkably stable overall top 10. So what's the ultimate answer? Which of these methods is the best, and who are the best overall players? And so there's really no one answer to this, right? It's really going to depend greatly on your own point of view, on what factors do you want to weight the most when you're thinking about the answer to the question, who's the best? What I can say is that, again, we saw this amazing stability of the top 10 across all these different views. And it deserves to be said that there was pretty good stability at the number 1 position, right? So I think Barrowman at this point does deserve to be called best overall Battlegrounds player. So there's no disrespect to Andrew or anybody else who's in that conversation, right? Yes, if I had done this last month, might have been a different result, but right now, I think you have to give it to Barrow at number 1. Liam's right there on his heels, as well as Andrew. Obviously, he's going to be in the conversation if he ever gets back into the C1 push. But really, the top 10, getting back to, let me pull up the average ranking again, right? So, Liam, Barrow, Andrew, and then Self-Destruction, Trap, Catley, Simon, Pepe, Hithack, Cantona, and then, let's give an honorable mention to Biwi, who did get into the top 10 for at least one of those rankings, right? But I think those are the people who deserve to be called your top 10, because we took fairly different approaches to trying to gauge who are the top players, and those are the people who very consistently came out in the top 10. So let me know what you think of these stats. Is there a different way that I should be approaching this? Do you want to see me do this at the end of every season or on some periodic basis? That or any other thoughts, please do leave a comment on this video. Otherwise, please like, subscribe. Appreciate that. Hope you all have a good day. See you later.